But now I don't see those cobbles and curbs. I don't hear the blues anymore.
Rough Trade is giving away a third of the first 3 months of the Rough Trade Club plus new music membership exclusively to 101 Part-Time Jobs listeners. Become a member of Rough Trade Club New Music and you'll receive the Rough Trade Album of the Month straight to your door every month on exclusive vinyl pressing with exclusive bonus material. Club members have received exclusive pressings of albums from Sufjan Stevens, Sprints, The Last Dinner Party, Julie Byrne, and Over Mono, just to name a few, this past year alone. Sign up using the promo code CLUB101POD and you'll get the Rough Trade Album of the Month, English Teacher's excellent debut album, This Could Be Texas, on exclusive Galaxy Gold for a third of the usual price. Here's English Teacher on a recent episode of 101.
How many opportunities do you get to write a debut album and have all of this, sport behind us? I don't know, I really like the idea of holding the bar as being like classic songs.
You only get one shot at a debut.
Don't want the album of the month but still want all the benefits? Sign up to the standard tier using Club 101 Pod and you'll still get the first month free. You'll also get free shipping on all orders, 10% off the bar and on secondhand vinyl in store, and exclusive access to sold out Rough Trade events. So don't hang around. Go to roughtrade.com/club and sign up with the code CLUB101POD. That's CLUB101POD and claim money off the album of the month, English Teachers This Could Be Texas, today. This offer's available to UK residents only. Do you play in bands? I did for the longest time. And I wish that I knew that DistroKid was a thing. I don't even think it existed back then. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. 1 million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all the major streaming services. When you get DistroKid, you can see a DistroKid bank and withdraw your earnings. You get notified when you've earned royalties and you can withdraw via the app. And you can even check your streaming stats on Spotify and Apple. Get 30% off your first year on DistroKid by going to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. 30% off for your first year. That's not bad. We know it's a tough world out there. Why don't you make it easier for yourself? And to get 30% off that free year as an artist, where you get 100% of your royalties and earnings, go to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod. All right, stay with me. I'll be right back after this.
The Vietnam War, it's over. Your job has just begun.
A new HBO original limited series.
Welcome to the world of spycraft. Strap in.
From executive producers Park Chan-wook and Robert Downey Jr.
What are you concealing?
Based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning novel by Viet Thanh Nguyen.
What if I told you that I was a communist spy?
How did you become this?
The Sympathizer, streaming April 14th on Max. Subscription required.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather, now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hey, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's the podcast where I speak to bands and artists about the years leading up to making records, all the stuff we don't see. On today's episode, we got Marisa Dabice, front person of Mannequin Pussy, who are a brilliant band. They're just about to release their new record, I Got Heaven, in March next year. They've released a couple of singles from it, and there's this real mix of punk rock, alternative rock, a really melodic. They've got their own thing going on. Marisa has an excellent voice, incredible lyrics that go to those kind of dark places, goes behind those rocks, goes into those shadows, and has this kind of this squeal, this almost like childlike, primal primal kind of opening, and I think that really invites us into her world, because when someone is so vulnerable like that, you can't help but feel responsive to that, like invite, we step into that person's world because they've allowed us with their vulnerability. I really get that from Mannequin Pussy. Yeah, brilliant band. I spoke to Marisa in Soho at Soho Radio, because they were playing a couple of shows at the Windmill before they went to Primavera. So here it is, Marisa, Dabice, raw and unedited. This chat goes straight the way through. I do a bit of editing. I do quite a lot of editing on episodes, but I thought this one was just natural. It was a natural flow, natural conversation. It's really cold right now in England and lots of other places. There's homelessness that is savage. We've been hearing about how it's a lifestyle choice, which, as we know, is horse crack. There's people sleeping out on the streets in this horrific cold, and I'm sat in here in my flat complaining it's cold, and really I need to get out of the habit of that, because there are people on the street not far away from where I live and all across London, all across the UK. This is not their problem, it's our problem, it's all of our problem, right? Because they're part of the economy, they're a part of the way we live, the money that we get, the money that we spend. Like, we're all in an ecosystem together, right? Aside from that, it's just fucking human it's human to empathize with people who are less economically well off as us. So when you go past that person today or tomorrow on your way to work, on your way back from work, buy someone a cup of tea and maybe hear what they have to say. If there's someone that you see all the time that you usually kind of stare away from, and look, I've done that, I still do it. Sometimes you feel a bit awkward. That's totally natural, that's normal. In this case, I think that we should start saying hi to people. Start saying, how's your day going? Do you want a cup of tea? Usually people are going to be standing outside shops where you can buy them a hot drink. Do that. Just have a think about what you can do, because everyone's different. Everyone's got a different story. Head to crisis.org.uk. Crisis obviously isn't the only one, but that's the one that comes to mind for me. And you can download and you can donate some money immediately there for Christmas gifts. That's where we can get the ball rolling. I read somewhere that about 50 years ago, the amount of money that was going towards people, charities and homelessness was times more than we're giving now, and I think we're living in this increasingly conservative, elbow out each other, no, this is mine, not yours kind of world, and that's bollocks. That's not a world that's going to be rewarding for any of us in the long run, and in the short run just kind of makes you a bit of a pillock, I think. So look, we live in a capitalist society. We can't really get away from this stuff, but we can think about it, and we can put our money to where our minds are. Crisis.org.uk. Click onto there and see what you can do for people around you. 2000 Trees supports this podcast. They're a brilliant independent festival down in Cheltenham, just a few hours away from London. And next year, the Gaslight Anthem are going to be headlining. Manchester Orchestra are playing. Boston Manor, the Mysterines, Gouge Away, Hot Mulligan, loads of ace bands. I mean, that is just, 3 or 4 or 5 bands out of the hundreds that are going to be playing next year. If you want to go, if you've heard of 2000 Trees and you're curious, it's a camping festival. It's a great time. All the vendors there are independent. You come away from it with a good feeling. 2000trees.co.uk. You can pick up your tickets now. They're the cheapest they're ever going to be. And if you buy before the end of the year, then you can get a free refund if you find out that you can't make it. So that happens all the time. That's the world we live in. But 2000 Trees, they're fine folk. They know they're one of us. They're part of us. We're us and the people who are booking 2000 Trees. They're just music fans who book the stuff that is awesome. Not necessarily looking at Spotify numbers, but looking at the impact and the emotion and the records, the value of the audiences and the culture of the bands they book. I love 2000 Trees, as you can probably tell. 2000trees.co.uk. You can pick up your tickets there for 10th to the 13th of July 2024 today. Okay, before we get into this chat, I've got Rebecca from Ampolo here. Ampolo is the first all-in-one app connecting a global community of musicians and bringing an all-in-one place to practice, record and collaborate. Until now, practicing has been kind of lonely. There's been technical barriers. These are all things that Ampolo is working to make your life better for. Isn't that right, Rebecca? What's going on over there?
Interestingly, we've been having lots of conversations with students and teachers and universities and colleges, and there's this big push of people wanting to use it as part of their curriculum to accelerate learning and change the way that music is taught. You're able to talk to each other in real life within the same project. So forget about jumping back to WhatsApp and emails and things like that. I can watch back your performance and say, that bit was great, this bar needs a bit more practice. So we've been getting feedback that Ampolo is a total game changer for music education, and it's so much easier using this than using multiple apps and jumping around to communicate with each other. So it's a really exciting space.
Ampolo, get on it sooner than later. Okay, you're listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs, and of Mannequin Pussy, the excellent alternative swirling dark punk rock band. Here's my chat with Marisa Dabice. 101 Part-Time Jobs. Be your own manager for maybe forever.
Yeah,
at least
for
not for
a
the
long
first
time
bit.
until maybe someone comes out to do. You're your own booking agent. You're your own.
Yeah.
Manager, you're your own accountant, you're your own label, you're your own merch maker.
Yeah.
You do a lot of things until someone comes along to help you.
And I feel like now is a funny time. It seems to me, I mean, my experiences of seeing it and reading about it is that the people who are kind of worth working with don't, want to see you doing that for years before they start working with you. You know, they want like almost a ready to go thing.
Yeah,
because that makes sense. The music industry hard. There's not money flying out of people's ears like there used to be.
Yeah, it takes years of investment usually to see sort of like any sort of the capitalist ideal of what a payout is. And
like that starts to like the knock-on effects of that, right? Is like your value of what music is and your value of how you see it as a job. I mean, I grew up as punk and playing in bands as like something away from school. There was a clear line in my mind. And as I got older, I'm trying to blur that, even by doing this podcast and like having some sponsors and, like kind of making it half my job. I do a few other bits as well.
Yeah.
But I think, cool, I love doing this. It involves my interest in music, drawing, kind of blending that with being organised. Because I growing up playing music, I found it very hard to take myself seriously, because I kind of thought it was a joke.
Yeah, you have to be the first one to take yourself seriously.
It's funny that, isn't
before
it?
anyone else does.
It's and that's kind of a thing in life. It's like with relationships, it's with family. You hold yourself in a certain way, and then as people see you as it, it's not just necessarily about your output.
Yeah, so I feel like at a certain point, so little has to do with the music.
How have you got? Oh, Aid, are we recording? Nice one. This is a great way to start.
Yeah, here we go.
Have you got into that? Has that been like a nice blending of that for you in your life? Taking what you grew up with, taking your school, taking your experiences at home. Have you been able to? It must feel. I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth there, but it must feel like all-encompassing. This is...
Yeah, I think it's true, not only for artists, but for everyone, is that we are like a culmination of all our different experiences, or a culmination of all our different relationships and our education and our jobs, and just like all of those things coming together to put us exactly where we are right now.
It's a lot to take in, on a day-to-day basis. It's pretty full on. I sometimes think that maybe like the key to living a fulfilled life is to not think so deeply so deep, right? But you're in a position where you have to, right? You have to be organized. You have to be on top of everything you're doing.
Well, I think being reasonable about how deep you're willing to go. There's obviously something to be said for having depth within yourself and expecting depth in the people around you, but it's when you kind of crack too far into the earth, you go a little too deep. I think that's like when the poison starts to come out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so finding the right balance of like, what's the safe level of depth for me to go?
And what is the safe level of depth for you to go?
I think being as in touch with your emotions as you possibly can in a safe way, where you're not finding them to be a distraction from your life. You're just feeling them, but you're not allowing them to control you. I think that's an appropriate amount of depth.
like leaning into it.
Yeah.
I think maybe I get that most when I'm reading a good book, fictional or non-fiction.
Yeah.
Where I'm just really invested in it, and I kind of maybe it's like a selfish thing to do, but maybe we are just inherently selfish in the way that we receive information. We apply what we're reading about, we apply that to ourselves. We're like, oh, I can relate to that, or maybe I should do that. Maybe that's my next step in life. That's the next direction to look towards.
Allowing yourself to be really moved by something, like when a book moves you, especially.
It's amazing.
Bear actually just told this story yesterday, the bassist in Mannequin Pussy for the uninitiated, where we were years ago. We were driving in the van and on the way to the show, and everyone in the van was sleeping, and I was in the back row, and Bear was driving, and I was in the back, just weeping like uncontrollably, but just trying to be silent because everyone was sleeping. And Bear just saw me kind of perfectly in the rearview mirror and just immediately just turned down the music. I was like, Missy, are you okay? And then just out by I like raised up Call Me By Your Name. I was reading the book Call Me By Your Name. And I was, this book. And he was like, oh, okay, this bitch is fine. Like, he's just turned back on the music. But just, to feel something.
I feel like at some point, whether it's like school and, you know, the jocks and the bullies and the horrible teachers, at some point we're kind of indoctrined to not show our emotions. Oh, yeah. And not to let our freak flag fly.
Yeah.
I think that's a lesson of growing up.
Yeah, I mean, the freak really kind of gets beaten out of you. I think especially, it's very... I think, of course, there's an element to it's dependent on where you grow up and how you grow up. Where are you encouraged to be yourself or not? Or are you encouraged to fall in line with kind of the standard idea of what a life is? And I think definitely for me, where I grew up, it was very much like there's a way that a person should be. You either are this way or you are a loser.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Connecticut. So like very like kind of waspy, Stepford Wives.
Okay. Kind of commuter belt for New York, right?
Yes, yeah.
You get the train down into Manhattan.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I once went to Newport.
Okay, yeah. Rhode Island?
No.
Newport. Is there a Newport, Connecticut?
Newport, Connecticut, maybe. It was you know, it was kind of like half an hour train ride away from Manhattan.
Oh, yeah.
It was very I think it's the town that Charlie Bliss are from.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I remember
Westport.
That's
where I'm from.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That skate park on the beach.
Ellen Kemner from Palehound is also from there as well.
Palehound, great band. Yeah. And growing up around there, you could go into New York. You at some point you were like, okay, I'm going to start going to gigs. Were there gigs in Westport?
There were. I mean, there was like a teen center that we would go to on weekends where there would be like battles of the bands and bands from different neighboring towns.
Mixed
and
lineups.
We had a lot of... there were a few friends of mine who were in bands as well growing up, but I can't say that at that time making music that felt especially like youthful in a way. I think there was also this like kind of strange element of wanting to grow up very quickly, and so some of the music that like my friends were making at that time was just like overly mature in a way that felt
Radiohead fans.
Yeah, in that kind of sense of like, you know, a 15-year-old Radiohead fan or a 15-year-old like Wilco fan or a 15-year-old Bruce Springsteen fan. And I admired just how much they loved music, but it maybe wasn't something that was like speaking to my teenage soul. I felt like such an unbearable angst in that real kind of way growing up that just music was definitely the escapism and gave a voice to, I think, my anger, which I think is the experience of so many teenagers. But the real truth and the real truth is that the big lie is that they tell you your anger subsides as you get older. That this anger and this angst that you feel as a teenager is something that you grow out of. But instead, I think I've only grown into it more.
Same.
Yeah.
I kind of look around and I'm like, fuck, why do people do stuff they just hate doing and they pretend They like it. And I feel like I have the authority to say it because I've done that myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard to talk about this stuff without making sweeping generalizations about other people,
Sure.
people that we'll never, ever meet. But that, have you had that experience where you tried to do the thing that you thought would be good for you and it turned out it actually made you more angry?
Absolutely. Yeah, I went to college. I went to study in university, and
Which school?
University of Colorado in Boulder. And
it's quite far away.
I studied political science and really thought I would work in politics. That's a respectable job that one would maybe have. And then I think in that experience, what I really learned was, again, the truth of the big lies, that, a lot of the myth of America is something that really kind of deconstructed before my eyes. And this myth that every system that we have in place really only seeks to serve a very small portion of the population, and it broke open my understanding of my own culture and my own country, and then seeing the effects that has had all over the world, and in a really I would say a radical way, but in an intensely heartbreaking way to reckon with.
Did you get involved with the fraternity houses and the kind of traditional, pockets that going to a school like that and studying a subject like that?
No, I didn't believe in paying for friends.
Is that what happens?
Yeah, you pay to join a fraternity.
Right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you pay to be part of a community, and I don't think that's the way communities work.
What was your experience? So you went there, your first year you were in halls in kind of pretty shoved in, lots of people on the same corridor kind of?
Yeah, exactly. Like living in the dorm life, constantly sick because you're living around, 100 other people, and like a real test to the immune system and to the spirit. I was pretty miserable the first few years. It was not, I would say, perhaps my plan to be there. Mm-hmm. I had just kind of come out of a very traumatic series of teenage years, and I was very much in a very depressive period in my life where I didn't understand I didn't understand why I was alive or what the purpose was, and I think I was very lustful to find a purpose, and I didn't find college to be what I thought it would. I thought I was going to be maybe surrounded by at the expense of sounding like such a fucking snob, like I thought I was going to be around people who were very intellectually curious about the world and very open to it, and I found really the opposite. I found people who were just kind of like really going through the motions and did not give a shit about the world, did not give a shit about other people, were essentially in the same way, were just told they had to be there, so that's why they were there, and everyone was just getting blackout drunk. And I'm not saying that, there's not a time and place for that in your life to experience kind of the party of it, but I was intellectually curious about the world. I was hopeful to find people who were, I don't know, just like inspired by something on, also like on an artistic level. Yeah. And it took me many years of living there to find kind of people who were energetically aligned with that. And I did find them, but it took a long time of loneliness.
Finding people that are galvanized by interesting, cool shit, and then you get inspired and you push each other along, you push each other up like that. That's a very special thing, isn't it?
Oh, it's so exciting. It's like, it's in that exciting way where you're 19 and you meet a friend who also loves the Stooges. It's like you're 19 in like the mid 2000s, but like it feels like this special thing that only exists for the two of you. You found your other people who are alternatively minded.
Makes the world seem a little bit bigger sometimes, doesn't it? So, I mean, your first few years at college, I mean, how many years were you in Colorado?
I lived there for 5 or 6 years, but I was in college there for 4.
So that college experience was a bit of a dagger in the heart, again, another dagger in the heart of life.
Yeah, I think if I had been able to make my own choice and go to university at a time that maybe I was more... that I was ready for it. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel very ready to be in that environment and to be in that kind of, it's also a very stressful environment. I think to be a student is real work and is real, kind of like sacrifice in a lot of ways. And I was just so horribly depressed. I had I just beat cancer as like a 15-year-old.
Wow.
I was like still in remission. I didn't know if it was going to come back. I had all this like emotional residue in me that I didn't know how to handle. So I just kind of, and even though my life script got ripped up so early in my life that like what I thought a life was going to be like, I was still very pressured to do the thing that you are supposed to do.
What age were you diagnosed?
15.
Cancer? What kind of cancer?
Alveolar soft part sarcoma. It was a tumor that grew in my face, so like on the right side of my face. I had a golf ball sized tumor.
How did you react to that? Looking back on it now.
I reacted, I think, in exactly the precious way that a teenager reacts to something, which is I found out I had cancer, and I think I smoked my first ever cigarette like the next week. Legitimately, like I just was like, okay, well, if I don't know what's going to happen, I want to party. Because that's what experiences are, right? Like I wanted experiences. And what is an experience? An experience when you're 15 means getting blackout drunk for the first time. An experience when you're 15 means smoking your first cigarette or starting to smoke weed, or, just it's like being bad.
What the bad kids do.
Yeah, exactly. What the bad kids do.
Or that girl that got expelled.
They're the ones who are really living, because they're living on the fringes. They're like really, they don't give a fuck. And so that was kind of the attitude I adopted a bit into my life.
And you had family support, you had friendship support. What was the support network for you like?
I mean, I had amazing friends in high school. For as difficult as I found growing up there, I really had a beautiful group of friends and a incredible family. But it was the early 2000s where you didn't talk. Teenagers don't have yet, I think, especially teenagers back then, you lack an emotional vocabulary to really express what it is that you're going through. And like, I never went to therapy. Like, no one ever thought to put me in therapy at that time, which probably would have been very useful.
Probably would have happened now.
Yeah, exactly. Like if this had happened now, I don't think there's any family that wouldn't maybe go to family therapy going through something like that, because I think the thing about cancer is that something I learned very deeply about that is that you are not the only one going through something. There's such a tremendous spread that it has it affects all the people around you. It affects your parents and your siblings and your extended family and your friends in this way, but in this way that no one really talks about. So you're feeling the same things, but you're not communicating them.
Well, how long was your recovery for that? How long until you started getting signs that it would be okay and you'd live past that, time at the time maybe you thought you might not?
Remission's a 5-year process. So basically they give you a 5-year window where for 5 years you're doing follow-up MRIs and CAT scans and blood work to make sure that once the cancer is removed, and I had a surgical removal, like I didn't have to, something that...
It was quite quick, the process?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense it was kind of like, it was quick because it was like a surgery to remove this tumor and then, a kind of invasive series of tests for a few years to make sure it didn't return. But you like live in this gray area of like...
You're being poked at and prodded at.
Yeah, for years.
You feel like a doll.
Yeah. I just wanted to be a normal kid. Like I just wanted to be a normal teenager. I wanted to, be in a band and do ballet and work my part-time jobs in high school, and I just wanted that, but I just immediately felt like such an outsider.
And that pressure that living a quote-unquote normal life, I mean, that's like you're trying to live two lives there in a way, right?
Yeah, I think it was trying to. I was like, I'm already not living a normal life. Just let me not live one.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
At what point did you think, okay, you know, did you come to peace with it, you know, after it was removed?
I don't think I came to peace with it until I was 30 years old.
Yeah.
Really, like it just, I just call it the blackout years because I don't really remember a lot that happened then. I really just kind of blacked it out.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing how we can do that.
Yeah, you train your body as a trauma response to just forget. And then every now I have like kind of like surgery trauma a bit, where if anyone ever kind of like talks about surgery or anything like that, I start to feel like a little bit of that panic a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's just,
your brain's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
My parents thought I was a bit too much. I was the youngest and they thought I was a bit too much and they couldn't deal with me. So they sent me to boarding school for a couple of years when I was 10.
Oh.
And my sister's got a kid who's almost 10 now. And I imagine that kid going to boarding school, it's wild. And I didn't tell any of my friends until probably recently, friends that I've known 15 years. And there was one, you know, I just think about this now because there was this one time during Christmas that I actually, it got to February and I actually couldn't remember the December. I'd you know, my brain had blacked it out. I didn't even choose to. It just blacked it out.
Yeah. That's how the brain protects itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you finish school, you meet your friends in Colorado. Mm-hmm. Are they punks?
Yes. We had this glorious punk house called the Goss House, and we used to have shows in our living room. We used to have shows in our kitchen, parties in the living room. And it was just this beautiful group of punks too, where a lot of them were in bands they had all just started playing instruments for the first time, and it was just this really, it was, I think, the first time in my life where I felt really accepted and also inspired by the people I was around.
Yeah, nice. And you could kind of live sort of semi-sustainably. You could work part-time jobs, you could work side hustles at bars or at coffee shops. And
I mean, I graduated into the recession, so there were no jobs to have on the professional scale. Like when I graduated in 2009, that was when like 2008 is when the United States recession started globally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there were no jobs for a
takes the pressure away.
21-year-old, who has a political science degree. There's nothing like that for me to like work in an office. So I was working 40 hours a week as a dishwasher at a cafe. How
do your hands get? Your fingers get pretty tough?
Oh yeah, I got into gloves. I still wear gloves when I do dishes.
At home?
Yeah, definitely.
Good tip.
Big tip to anyone. You hate doing dishes because the way it makes your hands feel. Just wear some gloves.
That hot plate feel.
Yeah. It's gross.
Kind of it echoes through your body.
Yeah. So that job was Trident Cafe and Used Booksellers, like a really iconic used bookstore and cafe in Boulder, and I was working 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Wow.
As a dishwasher.
How are you getting up?
I probably would sleep like 2 hours a night because I was just like in this like party house, living with all these other people in a house, and we would stay up all the time, like
momentum.
Yeah, just, you know, playing music, listening to music, talking about music, about it was just this exciting time to, you know, feeling those inclinations of like, am I an artist? You know, those seeds really starting to be planted. And then you know, it's also amazing.
You playing guitar?
I had really just started to learn how to play guitar this way. The interest was there, and I had taken a few lessons when I was in high school, and then just around that same time with like the illness and things like that, I just kind of stopped doing everything. I just became too depressed to function. But then you know, at this point I would have been early 20s, and I was just like, I've always wanted to be in a band. I've always wanted to play guitar. And I was surrounded by people who were doing that and were doing it for the first time. So I just felt so alive to try something that I'd always wanted to do.
Do you remember playing your first show, that first band practice, or what's the standout memory of like the first time playing guitar and thinking, oh, you know, in the way that happens when you start an instrument, you surprise yourself.
Yeah, I played with a band called Party Favor in Boulder, and we played a show in their kitchen. And it was the first time I ever really, you know, we were just awful, but so fun, and it was so electric. And it was just like the most fun I'd ever had.
Nice.
And then, I just, and then I had to leave Colorado, and,
What were those records? What were the bands that you mentioned? The Stooges earlier. That's a bit of a life-changing band.
Yeah, that's huge for me.
In terms of that sound, it's the feeling, right? It's the energy.
It's the energy.
It's the rawness.
It's like you didn't know that music could make you feel this way when you feel it. I had terrible insomnia as a kid, so I would just stay up and then go into, it'd be like 2 a.m, and I'd go into the basement in our house and just kind of like watch like VH1 or MTV on like volume 1 and like be so close to the TV watching it, and that's like when they would play a lot of
120 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And then I felt like I got like such a musical education from that, because I think it was like a late night VH1 thing that was playing music from the 60s and 70s, and it was the first time I heard the MC5 song Kick Out the Jams. It was the first time I heard I Want to Be Your Dog by the Stooges, and those songs I think played back to back on one of those channels, and I was just like, holy shit, like this is the music I've been searching for. This speaks to me in a way that mainstream music is not.
So how do you apply that to 2010? How do you apply the Stooges energy? For me, it was Minor Threat, and I started a couple of bands that kind of had full starts. But trying to find that Minor Threat energy, for me, I found it very hard to bring that into 2010, when I started to play music. I think that's a big, thing that I think about now with all bands, is that there's no real roadmap for you. There's no right or wrong way to do things, and that's powerful. It's also fucking terrifying. We're skipping ahead a few years now, but now Mannequin Pussy having a fan base and an audience around the world, people who connect with you through Spotify or YouTube, and the records are great. It's like, there must be a lot of thought about, okay, how do I keep on making this? How do I keep on boiling this down to the one nucleus of energy that makes me feel fucking good? That maybe you could trace that back to even the Stooges, if that's not too far a link. But
I mean, it's wild, but really, it's like it's just the commitment to continuing to create. It's like really as simple as that.
And it's been like that since moving from Colorado back to Philly.
It's the same. I don't know if it's a Joan Didion quote or something about writing, where it's very simply, she's like, writers write. Mm-hmm. Musicians write music.
Don't make it any more complicated.
Artists make art. Yeah. Don't overcomplicate it. I was just speaking to someone about how like the kind of the levels of how music starts is, I think, for anyone who starts playing in a band, well, I won't say anyone, but I think a lot of people, to make a generalization, I would say especially women, get into playing music because there is just this insufferable ache inside of them that they have never been able to understand and never really been able to express, and we are just like so desperate to start understanding ourselves and like this pain that lives in us. And then we just start transferring that pain into an art form. And it just really comes from this desperation to understand the self and to understand other people. And that starts just as this hobby, right? It's just this hobby that you do because you love it and you need it and you're so desperate for this cathartic outlet. And then maybe with a little bit of time, maybe you play a bunch of shows, maybe you record a song. Oh shit, all of a sudden it's a jobby. It's like it's a little bit of a job, but it's still mostly a hobby. And then maybe some more years pass, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, this is a job now.
I mean, reacting to that not final, it's the start of the next bit, isn't it? Oh, it's a job now. How people can react to that is going to happen in different ways, right? Because there's going to be some fear involved. There's going to be some chutzpah, some real invigoration, some galvanization there.
Yeah.
Keeping those pretty bubbly emotions under control, no matter who you are, is going to be difficult, right? I mean, I often think sometimes, when the most exciting days come along for me, I wake up that morning, I'm like, I don't know, kind of like bursting out my skin, and it's hard to think straight.
Yeah.
So how do you think straight when you've been working so hard for something to really become the priority, the umbrella job? how do you keep that under control and have a steady head and try and be organized and try and make sure there's as much organization as there is fun and imagination and creativity?
I can't recommend meditation enough. Truly, like transcendental meditation specifically. Like I recommend it to everyone now. Okay. It was recommended to me this past year, and I found it in this way. Yeah, in this like strange, because the thing that you need when you feel like you're on the verge of kind of bubbling over the surface, or you suddenly have those fears that, you know, like when something's just a hobby, you kind of have nothing to lose. You
got a way out, right?
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, this is just something I enjoy, and there's no outside eyes on it. Like, this is something that's just for me. And then suddenly that thing becomes a bit bigger than you, and then it belongs to other people as well, and there's other people involved. And I think it's easy to let the fear kind of overcome you, and you really can't have fear to be functioning, I think, at the level you need to as an artist, because you have to
throw you off, right?
Yeah, it's gonna throw you off your game. It's gonna make it hard to say the things that you just really need to say, because you have to be as honest as possible as well.
Yeah, I mean, finding that truth, that seems to be the crux of it.
Yeah.
If you're writing lyrics, even if you're writing instrumentals, to truly display and project how you're feeling, that's difficult.
Yeah.
Do you do your morning notes?
Like the morning pages? I'm more of like a night writer. Like I try to, flush out my brain before I go to bed.
Yeah.
But I have done the morning pages for a period. Usually if I'm like in the midst of a project is when I kind of incorporate the morning pages into my routine. If I'm, whether it's like working on a record or if I'm like directing something for another artist, I will, just kind of get into the rhythm of emptying out the brain in the morning to let it be as ready to go as possible.
I see. So those notes won't necessarily be the premise or the foundation of a song.
No, yeah, usually just write them and don't look at them again.
The morning pages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're directing?
Yeah.
Directing music videos? Short films?
Hopefully, yes.
Also,
I have some ideas percolating.
Hell yeah. How did you get into that? How was it? Did you buy a secondhand camera and take it upon yourself? Did someone teach you?
No, I'm not a DP at all. Like I don't I'm not a director of photography, but well, actually, when I was a kid, I loved making. My sister and I would make. My sister Desiree, we would make little films all the time on our like family VHS camera. We would just make these like little skits and like kind of edit in camera and make like stop motion videos with like our dolls and Legos and things like that. And we just had so much fun creating our own world together and just kind of creating basically like SNL skits of just weird little stories that we would tell. And like I think there's definitely an element of like bossiness to me and like how I like to have fun. Like for me, the most fun thing in the world is making something with people I love. Like that's the best. So I would like write these little movies for my friends to star in. And so I'd be like, oh, like let's have a play date. You're going to stand here and you're going to say these lines and you're going to wear this and we're going to make like that. I was like very controlling. Yeah, exactly. But you know, I like to think that everyone was having a good time with that, with like my, my directorial debut really was probably at like, 11, like forcing my friends to be in movies that we would make in our VHS cameras. But that wasn't something that was like fostered in me at all. Like just like the whole idea that you could be creative as a career was not really anything I understood as a possibility until maybe later in my 20s. That is a possibility if you're willing to commit and work and have all those side jobs and have all those side gigs and like really live an alternative kind of like just commit to the possibility that you might fail.
And people do it. People live an alternative lifestyle.
Yeah.
Aid, he lives an alternative lifestyle.
There we go.
And it is and he has a house and he has a family and there are ways. You kind of have to make your own luck sometimes and put yourself out there and try. Really fucking try.
You really have to imagine it and then you really have to do the work for it. And no one's going to come. No one believes in you before you believe in yourself. It's just not going to happen.
Well, you know, this conversation about making it work as an artist, as a musician. My mum's an author. I think that's probably why I kind of have these kinds of strong feelings or curiosity and intrigue into how people make it work, because I've seen her make it work all my life, and I think she'll be making it work until forever.
Yeah.
Do you have that similar mindset on directing as well then? You know, can you apply what you've learned and your experiences of music into directing and letting your imagination fly?
Definitely. I mean, because it is, I think that directing is so similar to being in a band, in the way where what a band is a collection of talented individuals who have committed to coming together to create something together. A band is a group of talented individuals who are ready to help each other achieve like more than you could have possibly done on your own. Like, I am not a lone wolf creator. I don't believe in being a lone wolf creator. I believe in collaboration. I believe that our best work comes out of us when we invite other people into the process, when we listen to what they have to say, when we try to make our tastes align, when we're chasing a vision together. That's exciting to me, because that's, I feel like, is really magic, when a group of people can be chasing a vision and then catch it together. Like, that is just, you know.
That's right on.
Yeah. And directing is so similar, because you have an idea, and what it takes is a talented group of individuals in all these different, you know, you have your director of photography, you have a gaffer who's doing your lighting, you have an assistant director who's keeping things on track, you have a producer who's keeping it all together, you have a set designer, you have a costume designer, you have a makeup artist, you have actors, you have all these, so many people who are coming in who are all committed to, yeah, today we're going to make something. And then your job as a director is really to have the vision, make sure everyone understands the vision, and then make sure that everyone feels inspired to do the best work that they can possibly do.
Understanding the vision, that's got to be one of the trickiest parts.
Yeah, you have to really learn, and I think having that kind of like self-reflection as to understanding when you miss the mark, why you missed the mark.
Humility.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to really self-criticize, because only through self-criticism do you grow. To understand that maybe the failure wasn't because of what someone did, maybe the failure was because of how you communicated it.
I think we all have an ego, small or big.
Absolutely.
Working on that, that's some day-to-day shit right there.
It's we were just talking about this too, like, there's a certain point, I think, when you realize, gotta get rid of this ego. I have to just, like, it's not serving me any good.
It's getting in your way. To
think that, you know, you're better or more important or more talented than anyone else. Like, there's something to be learned from every interaction with anyone that you meet.
I've got that on a poster above our toilet at home. You know what? You can learn everything from anyone you meet. That's funny. Hey, thanks so much, Missy. This is, I think we'll have to do a second episode.
Is this it? We're done already?
Well, it's 45 minutes.
That was 45 minutes?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about jobs.
Well, we did a bit. We talked about doing the dishes.
Oh, yeah.
Talked about director of photography. And what are the standout jobs for you? Looking back, what have been the most impactful, negatively or positively?
I think my first job was working at Ben & Jerry's. The ice cream shop. I was 16, and I think this was around the time I had a few different jobs. Like, I had so many different jobs, and I've had so many different part-time jobs. It's just part of the creative life, absolutely. But my first job at 16 was working at Ben & Jerry's, and then I also got a second job. This is when I was in high school. I was working at a pizza shop, and two things happened at both of those places that were so like an absolute awakening to me, where one, I learned I think I have far too much of an attitude problem to work sometimes in customer service, where you have to just like deal with a total dingbat or just like a total fucking moron, where I have no patience for rudeness. And growing up in Connecticut, there's just like there was just this contingency of people who just had such such extreme wealth, and they just really look down on people, especially look down on people in service. And I was 16. I was working in Ben & Jerry's, and imagine, the Crypt Keeper looks like. You don't know the Crypt Keeper?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the Crypt Keeper, it's like a skeletal figure that's been dead for centuries. Imagine a skeleton that's been dead for centuries comes in wearing Chanel head to toe. this ancient woman, head to toe Chanel, comes in, and she just, not a hello, not a how, that's fine, whatever. Sometimes she goes, "I'll have the egg cream soda, please." I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have egg cream soda here. I could make you a milkshake." And then she takes off, it was so dramatic, which is why I've never, she like whips off her sunglasses and she goes, "Yes, you do." And I'm just immediately like teenage me is like, "Fuck this bitch." And I was like, "We actually don't have egg cream soda. I can make you a milkshake." She's like, "I've had an egg cream soda here before, and you will make me one." Can you imagine the audacity of being an adult speaking to a teenager in this fashion? Also, for the record, we don't have egg cream sodas at Ben & Jerry's, but I could make you a milkshake. And then I was starting to get so heated because she started screaming at me about how she's had one here before and I will make her one, and she doesn't understand why I'm being difficult. And I was just like, and then my manager happened to come in. I was like, "I'm going to deal with this. You just go outside." And I was just like, I kind of very quickly I abandoned the rules of decorum, that what you're supposed to be when you're working somewhere, to just like meet her attitude, be like, "Oh, okay, well, if you're going to give me attitude, I will give it to you right back." And it took me a while to kind of realize that actually in the face of that sort of attitude, the best thing you can do is remain calm. Really, like, it only heightens a situation to become as hot-headed as the person who's giving you that heat.
It's wild when that happens between two people who have never met each other before.
Yeah.
It's when strangers are so rude in service, in service scenarios. Fucking blows your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I've been working in service since I was like 16, for so many years in that way, where I just like, I can't imagine when you're on the receiving end of that sort of, that almost like brutality. You're like, I could never treat someone like this. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And then, it's inhumane.
Can I give you a second anecdote before we go?
Oh, yeah.
Because this is also something that really stayed with me for a long time. I was a pizza delivery girl, and I was the only pizza delivery girl, I think, that at that time had ever like worked at the pizza shop. And I was so proud of that fact, that I was like the only girl doing this job that was, a boy's job or whatever. And I went to deliver a pizza to this woman's office. And when I got there, she was so delighted. She was like, "Oh, a pizza girl." And I used to make like such great tips because people were just like, "It's like, oh, the pizza guys, oh, the pizza girl,"
nice.
Just really delighting them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she was delighted, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm the only girl who works there." Talking in my moment. And when I went to take out this pizza, I fumbled the bag on top of it that had a salad in it. And it fell to the ground, and this huge thing of salad dressing spilled all over this very fancy carpet in this office.
It was inside.
And she, immediately her attitude kind of changed. It's like, "Oh, I'm so delighted to see you too. Oh, this stupid bitch just spilled salad dressing all over this carpet in this office." And I'm horrified because I just made this big mistake, and I'm apologetic, and I'm trying to help her clean it up. And before I go to leave, she's like, "Let me give you some advice. If you're going to be the only woman somewhere, you better be the best at what you do."
I mean, I'm not sure. Tell me how you took it. I think I would take it as like, fuck, that's fucking real. And second of all, it's sad. This may be true, but she might be right.
That's exactly how I took it. I immediately was like, that's for real. And I have not forgotten that since I was 16 years old.
The world's not going to change, is it?
No.
Hey, I got a good one. On my first time as a Chinese food delivery driver, my car got blocked in as I was parking somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. And I had to use a child's bike to go all around this very hilly town. And every delivery, the food had actually spilled out of the plastic container to the bottom of the bag. So about 12 to 20 deliveries that night I handed.
Oh,
and it's like
gross.
sagging. It's like this brown liquid at the bottom of the bag. Just had to say sorry. Very kind people who works at the Chinese food restaurant, because I did not get fired.
Yeah.
So you got to take that, right?
Yeah. You gotta, hopefully, when you make mistakes, someone is there that's going to be understanding about how to, also, you're not going to learn, you're not going to grow unless you make a couple mistakes. You can't wear something without spilling a bunch of dressing all over someone's office.
Easy to say, good to laugh back at.
Yeah.
At the time, painful.
Yeah, make a mess and learn how to clean it up.
Good advice. I usually end these asking people what's their, these big work gaffes, and you've just totally done that for us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, I Got Heaven sounds amazing. I've just had the singles, but
oh, thank you.
Fucking unreal. I got into you during romantic time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Rickin'.
A bit OG.
Rockin', rickin'.
Yeah.
Rippin' is the one I'm trying to say.
Rippin' record, yeah.
So good. Great energy. I mean, I didn't know about you getting cancer as a teenager. I didn't know about having a traumatic university experience, and it makes sense hearing your lyrics. I don't know, but maybe I wouldn't have even thought this at the front of my cranium, but I'm like, this person's gone through some stuff, some real stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of people have. But yours is your own story. Everyone's got their own story. Yours is yours.
Absolutely. I think that's what happens when you're a teenager going through something. I think the biggest lesson in the rear view aspect of is when you're a teenager going through something, you think you are the only person going through something in the world. And it takes some time to realize that every single person has something in their life that causes them massive amounts of pain and embarrassment and trauma, and you're kind of just part of this collective web of pain that everyone is trying to navigate how to just wake up every day and go to work and just live, maybe not peacefully coexist with your past, but whether you like it or not, you are waking up with your past every day. Mm-hmm. But you're like, okay, well, how do I move into the future with it? And then I think it does. What starts as selfishness actually becomes this empathetic link that you feel to other people, because you start to, before you're just like, oh, I'm the only one going through anything. No one can understand how I feel. And then you're like, oh, no, we're all linked because we all have that thing in us.
We contain multitudes. I think that's when you really, I think of that every day, and it helps with empathy. It helps to know that someone might be angry with you, someone might be upset, someone might think you're awesome. It's all, there's lots of things flying around there. Mm-hmm. There's most of which we don't see. Good stuff. Hey, thanks so much, Missy.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course.
It's been fun.
So there was Marisa from Mannequin Pussy. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this episode, you can subscribe, first of all, and you can also leave a rating or review it. All that stuff helps me massively. If you liked this episode, you can go back and listen to Ian Shelton from Military Cun, perhaps Graham Sale from High Viz, Lambrini Girls, who else? Kurt Viles last week. I'm still reeling. I'm buzzing that we had Kurt Vile on the show. Loads of episodes you can go back to on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Coming up, we got episodes with Jem from Speed. Later on this week, we got Will Anderson from Hotline TNT, Benny from the Gaslight Anthem, Eugene from Go-Go Bordello. Always great episodes coming up on 101 Part-Time Jobs. So make sure to subscribe and get them delivered straight away. We've also got a newsletter on the website, 101parttimejobs.com, where I share some bits and bobs every Sunday. So come join. See you soon.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, PrizePicks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the PrizePicks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on PrizePicks for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.